So with the NFL season now soon coming to an end, of course, the MVP discussion has started. And for a background, there are 50 different voters from the AP who vote on who they think is the most valuable player in the NFL. And so yesterday, one of these voters was on a radio show called 670 The Score. His name is Hub Arkush, and he's actually the editor and general manager of a Chicago Bears site. And he gave some thoughts on why he already said he is not voting for Aaron Rodgers as the most valuable player, and had a few, I'd say, pretty interesting things to say. And so I sort of want to go through each of his quotes. I watched the videos, like a 2-minute clip where he sort of gives his thoughts on why this is the case. So I got some of the quotes that I think are the most important, and I want to go through each of them and sort of talk about sort of what he had to say about this, because it's pretty entertaining, I guess, to say the least. So first off, he comes out and says this: I don't think you can be the biggest jerk in the league and punish your team and your organization and your fan base the way he did and be the most valuable player. So first off, I mean, I am a Packers fan, and, if there was one word that I could say, to how I feel about how Aaron Rodgers has treated us this year, it's punished. I mean, number 1 seed, first round bye, home field advantage. I mean, I feel punished. But I mean, in all seriousness, he's calling him the biggest jerk in the league. He clearly has some kind of personal vendetta against Aaron Rodgers. It seems to be that he just doesn't like Aaron Rodgers as a person, and that could be factoring into his decision here. But he gives more thoughts on this here. He says, has he been the most valuable player on the field? Yeah, you can make that argument, but I don't think he is clearly that much more valuable than Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp or maybe even Tom Brady. And so from where I sit, the rest of it is why he is not going to be my choice. So I have no problem, if someone decides that they don't think Aaron Rodgers is actually the most valuable player. Like if he were to come in here and say that he thinks Tom Brady or Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp is more valuable to his team on the field, then, go ahead and make that your choice. Like I'm not here saying Aaron Rodgers should be the MVP, even though personally I think that he should be. I do think he's the most valuable player. But everyone, of course, has their own opinion, and it's sort of up to everyone's opinion on how they sort of see the most valuable player. But then moving on, there are a few different things that it doesn't seem like he's really factoring in his play on the field. It seems to be mostly off-field things as to why he's basing a decision on this. So then the interviewer comes in and asks him this question. He says, are off-field things like vax status supposed to factor in, or are there no guidelines for that? He goes on to say, there's no guidelines. We are told to pick the guy who is the most valuable to his team. I don't think it says anywhere strictly on the field. Although I do think he hurt his team on the field by the way he acted off the field. They're going to be the number 1 seed anyway, but what if the difference had come down to the Chiefs game? Where he lied about being vaxxed and ended up not playing and they got beat? So I think all these things should be considerations. That's the way I look at it. He starts playing the what if game. Like what if the loss of the Chiefs had, allowed the Packers to not get the number 1 seed. I just don't see how that comes into consideration for most valuable player, sort of playing the what-if game and, your personal thoughts on Aaron Rodgers' decisions. I don't think, someone's opinion on what he chooses to do for himself, when it comes to health, when it comes to off the field, I don't see why that is a factor in deciding the most valuable player. Then he says he ruined the entire offseason for that football team. They were left in jeopardy. See what you did there? They had no idea what they were doing. A lot of the off-the-field stuff was wasted because he wasn't there. He tortured his fan base, and he's already starting to do it again. I'm a Packers fan, and I feel tortured. No, I don't. I don't feel tortured. I think that, this offseason, clearly we didn't know what was happening as Packers fans. We didn't know if he was going to come back, if he was going to stay. And, we've heard from Aaron Rodgers this season a lot on the Pat McAfee show, sort of talking about the way the media spins things that basically he doesn't even say at times. And clearly there are some things that are true. But then just from what Aaron Rodgers has said, not everything coming out in the media has been true. So I think that to judge Aaron Rodgers based on what he decided to do in the offseason, deciding on what he wanted to do, I don't think that should be a factor, And then this is the craziest part, honestly, to me, and this is the final point I sort of want to talk about. So the interviewer says, oh, so he couldn't have won the MVP before the season for you? And he says, for me, no. I just think the way that he's carried himself is inappropriate. And the vax thing was just one more log on the fire, so to speak. I think he's a bad guy. And I don't think a bad guy can be the most valuable guy at the same time. So basically, this guy had already decided before the season that Aaron Rodgers was not going to be MVP, just basically because of the decisions he was making in the offseason and basically how he hadn't, made his decision until maybe coming in closer to training camp. But personally, I just don't see how you can fault someone for, taking their time to decide what to do with their life, whether he wanted to stay with Green Bay, whether he wanted to retire and, start to do something else as well. And so I just don't see why someone's personal decision like that, when they're deciding what to do with their life, should factor into, whether or not he can be the most valuable player. Because clearly in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers had, some issues with the organization, and he just basically wanted to, have communication with the front office and those kinds of things, which I think do make lots of sense. And even if you don't, like the way that Aaron Rodgers maybe handled himself in the offseason, I mean, that's your personal opinion. But for most valuable player, I just don't see why, personal opinion for off the field should be a factor into the MVP discussion. So I'll be curious to hear sort of your guys' thoughts on this situation and what you guys think. But personally, my vote, if I had to vote, what would be for Aaron Rodgers. I probably shouldn't have an MVP vote because I am a Packers fan, so I am slightly biased. This guy also is an editor of a Bears site, which I saw someone else mention in some tweet, it's at least an interesting observation. It's just an interesting observation, but that's sort of what I wanted to share in this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys haven't subscribed, I put out Packers content daily, news, updates, rumors, all things Packers. So if you want to stay up to date with all that stuff, feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like. But that is all for today, and I'll see you guys next time.